Hello everybody, here we are today doing our season preview over the New York Rangers, talking about whether or not this team will be able to be the top side in the NHL once again and getting into all that. So before we get started, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So last season proved to be a fantastic year for the Rangers as they had 114 points and won the President's Trophy, and it was good even by their standards as an old franchise, one of the better years in club history. But of course, too, while this team was able to see all that regular season success and even playoff success, they bowed out in the Eastern Conference Final to the eventual champions, the Florida Panthers. Hard to see this team lose twice in 3 years after going on deeper runs, but that's just the way it works. In sports, sometimes you'll see these teams that get to the precipice of possibly winning it all, but they aren't there just yet. But still, looking at the Rangers right now, clearly they're in a better spot than most teams in the NHL. So with all this kind of being brought up, what are some storylines for this team for this season? So the first storyline is talking about whether or not this team can win the President's Trophy again. This is very hard to do, obviously, but we've seen multiple sides be able to do it, even in the salary cap era. And it's something that I think it means a little bit more for your legacy if you're a team that's able to go on and win a championship, but also it just makes the path a little bit easier for you knowing you have home ice advantage for the entirety of the playoffs. And for New York, of course, it didn't really mean anything in its entirety as they ended up not making it even to the Stanley Cup final, but it's just a little bit easier to travel less, play in front of your fans, and maybe keep your routine a little bit more consistent with how you want to do things. And I think for this side, for New York, there are a few reasons why I feel like this team could be able to win it again. The first one being the fact that this is a side that's been consistently good over the past 3 years. Their worst season was 107 points in this span. A team that's been near or at the top of the Metro. Of course, last year they won the division, and a side that I think is going to benefit from a team like the Carolina Hurricanes probably regressing a little bit. A team that's kind of been a thorn in their side before. But then, of course, last year we saw New York get a little bit of revenge there, and still seeing this team, a lot of regular season success, a lot of continuity. As you're looking at guys like Artemi Panarin, a player that's played for them for already 5 years now. He's entering his 6th season, and there's plenty of other names that have been around for a bit now in this era of New York Rangers hockey that has been good. So there are reasons where you feel like it's going to be just kind of going their direction as to why they could. Chemistry and understanding the fact as well, too, that other teams are going to be battling with some of the losses that they had, where New York is in pretty good shape in that category. So for the Rangers, could they go out there and not win the President's Trophy? I do think that is a very real possibility. To be the top team in the NHL out of 32 teams is going to be very hard to do, and there's just a lot of things that could derail you along the way. Is it going to be the end of the world for the Rangers? If they don't do it, no, but I do think, again, an easier path, kind of something that would boost, again, this legacy of what this group has been able to achieve. And if they win a championship, to say we won the President's Trophy twice, we have been able to go to the Eastern Conference Final 3 times in, 5 years at that point? 4 years, excuse me. Kind of would highlight, again, all of this success. Although I do want to throw out there real quick that actually they had the fewest points of a President's Trophy winning team since the 2015 New York Rangers. So that could be a reason why things don't work out for them. But again, we're getting off the rails here. So the second storyline is talking about whether or not this team is in love with their roster. A lot of times we talk about how teams really get bold and aggressive during the offseason and try to make big moves. New York was pretty quiet, and I think that in some ways you could say that's probably not a bad thing. This is a side that's played together a lot during a lot of meaningful games before, even here recently. And this is a side that is trying to probably just maintain what they've got going for them and see if it'll work for them yet again. And I know part of that will probably be because of the fact there's not a lot of cap space, but I do feel like this team, even if they had a few $1 million lying around, wouldn't have to go out and maybe make a crazy decision because of the fact they've got multiple guys that can score 40 goals or more for them on this lineup. You're looking at Artemi Panarin, a guy that just had a 50-goal year, 120 points on the year as well. You're looking at Mika Zibanejad, a guy that had kind of a quiet year in terms of goal scoring. We know he can be a goal scorer for them as he has been before. Chris Kreider, a player that is nearing the top of the Rangers all-time list for goals scored, if I'm not mistaken. Those are just a few that you can talk about as being those guys. Maybe they get 40 or 50 goals in a year. Then you have other players that can get 20 to 25. Is it a little bit top heavy? Yes, but I do think for this team, they probably do like a lot of what the rosters have been able to do because they've seen it during the regular season in the playoffs work for them. So why not try to go out there and run it back again, especially after being the top team in the league. They had good numbers at special teams. They have a good goalie duo on paper at least, and they have the star power to get the job done. So I think for the Rangers, they aren't in a situation where even during the deadline they would have to say we have to tweak things a little bit unless they have a glaring position issue. Again, you've got Adam Fox on the blue line, some other guys on the blue line that look good. The top end talent to get the job done offensively, as well as even some of that offensive talent on the blue line. So there are those sides that say, oh, we might have to go out and be, getting the biggest fish in the deadline period. New York, meanwhile, just seems comfortable. And again, they are in a spot where they are weird because they are old, but they're not too old to get the job done. Yes, their window might be shrinking here a little bit because a lot of their players are in their early to mid 30s. But for this team, especially for this year, I feel relatively good about where they're at. So no need to worry yet. And then the third and final storyline for the Rangers, talking about whether or not Jonathan Quick can have another good year. Jonathan Quick was a player that I was not very high on when it came to him signing with the Rangers. He had multiple, 5 bad years in a row. And he actually proved to be a pretty good part of the Rangers this season. I know some things like his quality save percentage or his quality start percentage wasn't fantastic, but all around for Quick, this was a good year by recent standards for him. Yeah, he's not necessarily back there to his days when he was peak with LA, but he still was able to provide depth for the Rangers. And this is kind of big too because you understand that he's not going to have to play too big of a role at this spot right now. So Igor Shesterkin should be that guy, Vezina guy, a guy that is going to go out there and give you 50, 60 starts. Quick only needs to be a good backup goalie. And at the same time too, it's kind of nice knowing you have an experienced Stanley Cup winning goalie in net and have him possibly go out there and play for you in the playoffs, which he can very well go out there and do. And I think for the Rangers, it's all just about having a starting goalie and then a good backup goalie to make things a little bit easier for them. We talked about how this side has been able to do it and get the job done before, but having Shesterkin maybe take on less of a workload this year, even though it would be a veteran goalie trying to take off the workload, would be an interesting thing to watch out for. And I think for Jonathan Quick, he's got a lot to play for at this point in his career too, as he is now the winningest American goalie all time, but he's also closing in on win number 400 for his career, as he's less than 10 wins away at the moment. He's also a player that is kind of been able to redeem his career at this point. I know that, like we talk about with a lot of these players, just because their fall off is not necessarily great looking for their career stats, they're still going to be remembered in a positive way. But it's also nice to see that redemption, that little arc again towards the back end of their career, where a lot of the younger fans of the game might say, okay, well, he had a little bit of a bad run during the end of his career, but he's able to revive it. So then you don't have those young kids being like, oh no, he was trash, which I hate seeing. Again, I probably did it when I was a kid, but it is something that you'll see in sports where you want to discredit the older guys because the newer guys, of course, are better, right? When the case is, I'm getting to where I'm in my mid-20s now, and I remember Jonathan Quick in his peak. So yes, I want to be able to see him finish things out very well, especially for a team that has a lot to play for. I think it's a good thing that he didn't end up in Columbus because his numbers would look really bad, and I don't think he would have been very happy there. Meanwhile, he is now on a team that won the President's Trophy and is looking to go on a deeper run for the third time in 4 years in the playoffs. So overall, what are my thoughts on the Rangers? Well, they are a team that will be in the playoffs. That is something that I feel like is a lock at this point. If they missed, I'd be pretty shocked, but I do think for this side, I'm not necessarily going to say that they're going to go out there and win the President's Trophy. This division is better this year, and New York was a team that I feel like was pretty surprising, at least in my eyes, to go out there and win the President's Trophy. Again, kind of like we talked about already, they weren't able to get a crazy high point total last year, and there could be another team out there in the NHL that could be able to surpass them, but I do think for this side, they aren't really concerned because, again, they've got bigger aspirations. We talked about with the New Jersey Devils season preview. The Devils have their eyes on a bigger prize than just the regular season. New York, even more so. They know they've been able to be a team that can go on to play some of the best teams in the league and beat them. So they're thinking about winning a championship. If they finish third in their divisions this year, so be it. As again, it's all about winning that Stanley Cup for some players that, they're probably still able to play some high-end quality hockey over the next few years, but understanding too that they just might not be able to do it for too much longer. So anyway, those are my thoughts for the Rangers. What are your thoughts for New York this year? Do they win the President's Trophy again? Are they a top 3 team in their division? Do they go on and win the Stanley Cup? I want to know all of your opinions down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.